after having worked in public education for 31 years and looking at all of the testing and the impact that testing was having on students, that I was very interested in opening a school that really focused on learning and student learning and not focusing on the testing. So to be able to offer an environment like that where parents would have an option of making that choice for their child.
For me, timing was key. I was in Leadership Knoxville's program at the time. Bill Haslam had been my previous boss, was now the governor, and he spoke to us at a chamber meeting. He looked out into the audience and he spoke to us as leaders, and he said, "Now is your chance to make a meaningful change in education reform, and shame on you if you don't play a role in that." And I felt like he was speaking to me that day. That's what caused me to start asking some questions and doing some research. The other thing is that one of my classmates was Gerald Colhorse, who was with BNWY 12, and he had said in one of our leadership classes that their biggest issue was trying to attract talent in the major disciplines to our region. And so why not grow that talent? We just decided, let's start a charter school. I called Pat up, and Pat joined us at one of our meetings. When you started talking about teaching a standard in the classroom, but then going and implementing that into the real world and having those experiences, and you talked about how kids learned and how the brain was able to retain, that's where you kind of hooked me. I'm thinking, she's onto something.
When children are able to experience something firsthand, then you have that retention of information. Moving from short-term memory to long-term memory is much more profound.
We applied to be a charter school in Blount County, and we were denied.
Yes.
But then we were denied at the state level because we had to pay our dues. But Dr. Nixon suggested we reapply, and we chose not to.
Because we really wanted to look at being able to provide an independent school experience for this community.
Well, that gave you the flexibility to teach the way you knew was going to be good for students.
That's exactly right. I wanted to be able to do things differently as far as with the curriculum. I wanted to do things differently with the assessment piece of it. And so there was multiple layers of what I wanted to change for a school that we could create that would be independent of any other restrictions.
And goodness, we started looking at property. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember
we
that.
looked at every empty church and every empty school in Blount County and Maryville. And it was time consuming, going through the application process. That was about a 2-year period, right? And taking that hat off and going the independent route was absolutely the right thing to do. When Kevin got involved and we had a meeting over at Clayton Homes, so I'm trying to minimize everything. We don't need a whole lot. We just need, a few classrooms. That's all we need. Little land, a few classrooms, and then Kevin said, "Well, now do you need a cafeteria?" And I looked at Pat, and Pat was like, "Yeah, we need a cafeteria." And I'm like, and then he's like, "Well, do you need a library?" And I'm like, "We don't need a library." And Pat's like, "Yeah, it would be nice. A library would be nice." And then Kevin back and forth, and I'm just like, it's getting out of hand. Then we get out, and it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, and we're all standing there, and he says, "Yeah, well, let's do this." And then he left, and we're like, "What does that mean? Yes. What does let's do this mean?" But it's been so much fun to see him have fun, and to give back to the community in this meaningful way. He
was really captured by the idea of looking at education in a different way. Of course, we wouldn't exist if it were not for his generosity in what he's done with the buildings themselves. Some of the things that I was thinking about was how important it was for these classrooms to really look like what you would walk into someone's living room. The value that had on absence of threat, which we know is so important to provide for students, because we want students to be able to stay in the frontal lobe and not move down to the brainstem where no learning occurs. that year that we were talking to parents about coming and joining us with at Clayton-Bradley STEM Academy, we had 77 families that signed up. At that point in time, of course, in January and February, March, when we were having these parent meetings and you and the other board members were giving tours of the location where the school is going to be,
The grassy
there was
knolls.
nothing here.
The grassy knolls, I call them. And there's going to be a school here in 6 months. There is. There is. It was so fun to listen to you talk about your passion about education and what we were going to do, and it was just going to be so easy. And not that it was a lot of work. Pat was doing meetings in her garage with some of the teachers.
That's so true. It did start in my garage.
And I'm thinking 4 or 5 teachers, and I had this board member call me and say, "Bogert, do you know what's going on in Pat's garage?" And I was like, "What?" She's like there are a lot of people in there.
The teachers were meeting in my garage just to start with instruction. That is so true. I completely forgot about. When I was talking to the parents and we were waiting, and they broke ground on the 6 cottages in the family center the first week of April, and then we started school that year on July the 17th. So from the first week in April until July, and we broke ground and took ownership then of the buildings, is how long it took them to bring in those 6 cottages and complete the family center, which was amazing. We opened with a K through 6th grade school, and then the next year then we added 7th, 8th, and 9th. Oh, wow. We were already going to go 7th, so we were going to add 8th and 9th to it.
In year 2. And I'm thinking, this is going a lot faster than we planned. Every time I drive on the campus, I'm just so in awe. It is so much more than we ever expected, and it's everything we wanted to do, and then some.
The center of our focus is what's going to be best for children. And I've always been very passionate about children and about children learning. I mean, I've given my whole life, almost 40 years in education.
I'm just proud and grateful, incredibly grateful. Kevin and Clayton Homes and all the sponsors that we've had over the years that have been very supportive to the school.
Parents that believe in our vision and believe in our philosophy at school and how children learn, because that's very important to the success of the school.
Goodness, looking back, things just happened for a reason, the way that they did. And
they really did.
The outcome has been amazing, and it's just been fun to watch the journey.